The first part of lesson 2, variables and formulas, we want to cover input, process, output, or IPO charts. There are 6 basic figures that we can use in order to use this tool in order to help us visualize what's going on in a program. So I'm just going to introduce you to 4 today, and then what we'll do is we'll come back with 2 on lesson 3. And I think that sort of fits into the course as well. So the 4 basic charts that we want to talk about are, last thing is, I forgot to tell you that an IPO chart is just a tool, and it allows us to gather information necessary to solve a problem. Basically what needs to be done, what order they need to be done, and the fact that there's six of these bad boys, or 6 of these figures that we're going to use. All right, the first one is a sort of a circle looking thing, and that's just a start or a stop, and letting you know sort of the flow of the program, right? So this is where the program or the algorithm starts. So start / stop. And then you have these things called input and output blocks. So if you're going to have an input or an output, which we will many times in these programs, we're going to have an input / output. So if you're printing something to the screen, if you're getting information from the user, whatever that is, that's an input-output piece. And then what you have is process, right? So you got processes. So you have these squares that we're going to use, these figures. A process cannot be something that needs more detail. In other words, you're going to assign a value, you're going to do some arithmetic formula, you got something in here, but this is a process. And then the last one that we want to introduce, although we won't use it today, but I do want to just introduce it, is this decision. So sometimes in a program, we want it to make a decision. And we'll come back and we'll reintroduce this one tomorrow when we start doing that. Okay, in order to sort of understand what's going on, let's look at a problem. Understand what we actually, or how we would actually use this. Let's look at a problem, and we'll use the same board problem that we did before, where we're going to, in football, there's that statistic known as the passer rating, and we talked about what the passer rating indicates, or who it's on. It's the quarterback. And then there's all of these sort of calculations that go along in here. Let's see what that would look like in a flow chart, in an IPO chart. So we would want to start our program here, and then we want to completions, I think, is the first one that we want. So completions is equal to whatever it is equal to. And then, so I put arrows. So arrows are going to connect these things. I guess what I should have done was introduced the continuation one before I did the decision one. And then the attempts. So these are our variables, and that's the title for today's lesson. So it's pretty important to know. So in this case, we'll let this be 275. We'll let this one be 478. So we want to actually calculate something today. Yards, 3216. Touchdowns, 16. Interceptions, 11. All right, and then what we're going to end up doing now is using this information in order to compute. So the first thing that we're going to compute is come back up here, and you can see this computation here, right? So the way that I knew to, or the reason that I knew to start collecting this information, the things that are in these input-output boxes, was the fact that I knew what calculations I was going to have to do. So I need to do, I'm going to call this underscore C, and it's simply equal to, I put a parenthesis around it, completions divided by attempts times 100 times 100, and then minus 30. Oops, I put a parenthesis here, I didn't need it. Minus 30, put a parenthesis around there, and then divide that whole thing by 20. And then that should be all divided. So that should be what part A asks us to do. And then the next one, underscore y is equal to, and again, just accomplish what this thing's telling you to do. So yards divided by attempts minus 3 divided by 4 . Yeah, it's doing a little bit much. And this is another compute box. Touchdown, so underscore T is equal to the touchdowns divided by attempts and times 20. The last one, or the last sort of mini computation that we have to do, is this thing called I, and that was 2.375 minus interceptions divided by attempts times 25. And then the last thing is our passer rating. So another computation, right? So it's a computation. So passer underscore rating is equal to underscore C plus underscore Y plus underscore T I, all divided by 6 and then times 100. And then the last thing that we do is output, right? So that's the input, process, output, right? So this is the input. These IPO charts, you get input, you got process. And then this last little node here is going to be the output. So what do we want the user to see? So another input output block. And then maybe passer rating is equal to passer underscore rating, this variable that we assign it to. And you can put quotation marks around that if you want to. Okay, so let's take this and now program it, right? So take let me see if I can do this and do it sideways, and then take this, do it on the other side, and now let's program this thing. So completions is equal to 275, attempts to 478, yards is equal to 3216, touchdown is equal to 16, interceptions equals to 11, underscore C is equal to exactly what we have written in here. So we're going to come in here and go, okay, well, it's just completions divided by. So if we did this correctly, then the code is something simple for us to write. So completions divided by attempts times 100 minus 30, all divided by. Let me move this over a little bit. And underscore y is equal to yards divided by attempts. So all I'm doing is reading off our chart over there just to make sure that I get it right. So just making sure yards over 10. Okay, so if we did this right, then we should be good to go. So T, and we'll see. Downs, so touchdowns divided by attempts. We really didn't need the parentheses, but we put them there just for fun. And then 2.375 minus divided by probably didn't need that one either, but that's okay. And then passer underscore rating, going with PEP 8, right? So Python Enhancement Proposal 8 with the instead of capitalizing and all that, it's the underscore in between, and then we're just going to use the sum of all, so C plus I plus underscore T plus underscore I, right? So I'm adding all four of those, divided by 6, and then multiply by 100, and then we want to print it. So again, we're going to use F strings this time. So passer rating equals, and then in parentheses here, passer underscore rating. So the variable goes on the left, if you remember, and then the formatting, the format spec. So it's dot 2F, right? So maybe 2 decimal places or 3 decimal places. Let's run this code. You can hit the green button here. I haven't talked about that yet, but hit the green button and it gives us a 79.625. So the green button will save whatever you've done in here. So you'll see the little star by it. If you change it a little bit, it'll have the star, but when you hit the green button, it'll resave it, and it'll run all the code, and it'll print out whatever it is you tell it to print out. So that's the good part about that. Okay, that is your initial intro into IPO charts and sort of how to use those in order to code. So what we did is we took this, and if you can write your whatever it is you're trying to code, if you can write it out with this IPO chart, it should be very simple to come over here and turn it into actual code. Now, does all of this need to be coded? It doesn't need to be Python code. It can be just an algorithm. It can just be math. It could be whatever, but it doesn't. So what you're going to do is from this IPO chart, you're going to turn it into Python code. It just so happens that for this very simple thing here, well, I guess this last part, this really wasn't Python code written down here, but we knew what we wanted it to say, and that's how we turned it into Python code. Okay, hopefully that makes a lot of sense. Now, the next thing that we want to talk about is how to do interactive computing. So let me make sure that's true. So we did input output, we did example, running code from MyPython. So this is a very simple thing to do. So right now, so if I go to my thing, I'm in courses, so I'm in the module. So the module that I'm in is in the folder that I'm looking for. So I can come here to IPython, and I can simply say run qb underscore rate. So now I'm typing in the file name rating.py. So this is IPython console, right? So you can see it says IPython console here, console 1A. And if I hit that button, hit F or hit enter, actually, then what it does is it does the same thing as hitting the green button up here. But it'll run it and it'll tell you, it'll print out whatever you want it to print out. So if you were to change this to 2 without saving, and I do it again, it's going to still give you 3. But the second you save and you run it again, so I'm hitting the up arrow to get the same exact thing so I don't have to retype it in, then it gives you 2. So you can see if you save it, then what this does is it runs it interactively, is sort of what that's called. So that's running in IPython. The next part I believe that we wanted to talk about was running code from a command prompt. So the next part is getting to a command prompt. So let's go to a command prompt, and let's go Anaconda Anaconda prompt. So let's just run that, and I will bring it over. Right, so I want to run it from here. Now the problem is I'm not in the right folder yet. So I can pull up the folder. So if you pull up the folder, so this is the folder where my qbrating.py is. If you right click on this and you copy the address as a text, I can very quickly get to that folder here. So I'm going to cd, change directories, what that stands for, and then control V, and then hit enter. And now we can dir just prints out whatever's in. So this is a command prompt. This is a DOS disk operating system back in the day. This is all we used to have. So you come on here and you go, okay, well, there's qbrating.py. So I can run this from the command line, right? So how do I run it? You do Python qb_rating.py, and you can see that it runs it as well. So this is called interactive computing, and we're going to need to do this when we do what's called a pip install later on in the course, when we have different modules that don't come with the Anaconda download. We're going to have to use pip install here from the command prompt in order to do those, or conda install. So there's two different things that we're going to have to do with the command prompt eventually. Okay, that's all I got for this block. Hope you guys figured it all out. Talk to you later.